Hey everybody, welcome to another installment of Shop Talk. As always, I'm Michael Stoops, and today I have with me Marcus Kleiss. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
And we are going to be talking about a couple of products that we have out that may generate a little bit of confusion among some of you out there, mostly about which one of the two to select. We're talking about M888, our professional paint coating and ultimate ceramic coating spray. So let's talk about what's similar and what's different between these to maybe help these folks figure out which one's going to be the right choice for them. You up for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So let's start with this. Are they both really coatings?
Both definitely true blue, real, cross-linking coatings. It's a lot, but yeah, coatings, yes.
Because the M888 in this kind of fancy professional looking packaging, this is the kind of thing that people that are used to working with coatings are probably used to seeing. The applicator is a little bit different than what they might be used to. We've got another video where we deep dive in a shop talk on M888, and we'll get deeper into this in that video, but this is just to kind of compare and contrast these two. So this is the Pro coating that we have, and this is a consumer, but it's in a spray.
It is in a spray.
So it's like a spray wax or a spray sealant.
It's a coating though.
It's a coating. Okay, so look, if we take M888 and we put a sprayer in here, it doesn't change what's in the bottle, but you can't store it because air gets into it and it causes problems. So how do we do that with this? Or can't you divulge the technology?
I mean, yeah, the scientists are literally on the other side of that door, and if they hear me share that, I'll probably get yanked in there. But I can say this. A lot of work, and I'm talking a half a decade worth of work, went into figuring out a way to deliver a credible, real ceramic coating experience and performance, but do it in a way that's more user-friendly. And for a lot of folks, something in a sprayer is a more user-friendly approach than a really unique applicator in a tiny little bottle. That's just, might be a little bit too much for some folks.
Okay, so this is the consumer product, and it took all that much time to develop because of the technology that's in it, but that technology wasn't to make it a better performing coating, it was to make it an easier to use coating.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both in that if you look at some of the other spray coatings that are out there, you maybe don't see all of the typical performance you expect from a ceramic coating. Okay. And we wanted to make sure that we delivered the full experience of what you'd expect if you have a small bottle, the traditional ceramic coating, without having to have that application process.
Yeah, because the application process, for those of you familiar with it, you know what that's like. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, you get into a very methodical crosshatch back and forth. And we know a lot of people that will probably get halfway through the hood of their vehicle and think, yeah, that's it, I'm done. This is nuts. No wonder the pros charge so much to install these coatings. So this, we don't go through that, and we'll touch on some of that application stuff later on. And again, if you're looking for a deeper dive into both of these, we've got a separate video on just a deep dive into M888 and a tips and tricks for installing the ultimate ceramic coating, because it really is that easy to use. But they are both true, full-on, cross-linking, curing. Okay, what do you mean by curing as opposed to
so if you think
wax or sealant?
Yeah, a normal spray wax, a normal liquid wax, a paste wax, any product like that, or a sealant, you're basically putting a film on top of something that's gonna sit on top of that and protect it.
Okay.
But it does not become one with that surface. It doesn't cure and bond in a more permanent fashion with that surface. And there's an advantage to doing that in that you can gain more durability, more chemical resistance. There are some more advantages to being able to have something actually cure to it. So that's why it was important that this product, we wanted to make sure it really did cure and become one with whatever you're putting it on.
Okay, so both are full-on true coating, so that doesn't really help you decide which one you want. So let's see if we can start to give you some ammunition and some thoughts on what might work a little bit better in the way you like to take care of your car, maybe the amount of time that you have to work with it. Application process with the M888 is, again, like we kind of mentioned, that crosshatch back and forth pattern, but this one's a little bit unique in that you spray it onto the paint.
Yes.
Rather than onto an applicator.
Correct.
And then you spread it with a towel.
And that's part of that secret sauce that I can only share a little bit.
Right.
But we have this product sprayed straight onto the paint or the paint protection film, whatever you're going on, because the mechanism that starts that curing process, it has to do with wiping it into the surface. And if you're whereas you're using a traditional coating, that mechanism that starts that curing, that's just opening it to the air. Once you take that lid off, that's going to start curing, and you've started this window. That's the main difference.
So the chemistry is dramatically different between the two. They are both coatings, but they're dramatically different formulation-wise. So when we get into the application process, while this is that very meticulous crosshatch wipe on, this is literally just wipe it on with a towel. And it's going to be a little bit more involved than doing a spray wax, because you're getting all the benefits of a real coating.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a little bit more effort than that.
I would describe it like this. If you were to take something that you're familiar with, a spray wax, like Ultimate Quick Wax, and normally you spray that on, you wipe it off, and it's 5-10 seconds to do a half a panel. No big deal. If you're using Ultimate Ceramic Coating, because you're actually applying a real coating, and it needs a little bit more time to start that curing process, I would say it's about the same as if you were to spray maybe 3 times as much Ultimate Quick Wax as you're used to. So there's just a lot more product on there. If you think about it, you're just gonna have to wipe that a little bit longer to really spread it out and start to get that to evaporate and leave that nice, even, clear finish. So it's not that it's difficult or complicated, it's just a little bit more nuanced and takes a little bit longer.
Okay, so it's more involved than a spray wax, but it doesn't require the real strict methodology and being really, I don't want to say complex, but you have to be kind of particular about how you're applying a more traditional or professional level coating with an applicator like this. So that one's actually easier to apply. It's kind of between this and a spray wax.
Yep, great way to describe it.
If you're looking for the easiest way to get true ceramic coating benefits on your vehicle, then you're maybe leaning towards this one. But applying ceramic coatings can be tricky usually, because they're really finicky about the amount of time that they can sit on the paint before you have to wipe them off. We don't have that issue with either one of these, do we?
No, we don't.
So if you apply this to an entire panel and your dog comes in the garage and kicks something over, or you get a phone call or whatever, and all of a sudden you realize, I put this down 7 minutes ago, how much trouble are you in? Because we all know so many other coatings, you let them sit too long, you get high spots that you have to buff off. What happens here?
Well, then I'd probably go and eat lunch too, just to really double down, and then come back another half an hour later.
With which one of these two?
Either one.
Either one. So they're both that forgiving, the pro and the consumer.
Yeah. Now, is that the optimal way in terms of the easiest way to apply and remove it?
Probably not.
No. But are you in trouble? Is it going to be difficult? Are you going to have to compound or sand or anything crazy like that? No, you're going to be able to wipe it off.
Because that's always been like the big tricky part with coatings, is especially because they can be so impacted by ambient temperature and humidity. That you may apply it to one car in January and you need 2 minutes before you wipe it off, and then you do another one in July and you've got 7 minutes, or maybe it's the other way around or whatever. And this is so forgiving, it's kind of incredible.
Yeah,
it really is kind of incredible.
Both of these, that was one of the driving forces when you think about, when you read people's experiences with any kind of traditional ceramic coatings, one of the most talked about things is just that stress factor of, how do I know how to apply it and when to wipe it off? How do I know I didn't do it too soon? Because there's a risk of too soon, there's a risk of too late. And the point of this was to take that stress out and get it back to having fun working on your car. Doing car care is supposed to be fun.
So high spots are like virtually, I mean, you can get a high spot, but you can remove it really easily.
Yes. Yeah. What we officially say is, you can count on being able to wipe that high spot off easily, even for up to 24 hours.
Yeah. That's what he just said.
Hours.
You can wipe off a high spot like 24 hours later with either one of these, and that's virtually unheard of.
It is. But again, that was something that took a long time to dial that in, to be able to still also have it still set up, still cure, still cross-link to that surface and become a real coating.
Okay. So that's really not helping you decide, because they're both super forgiving to apply. This one's a little bit more involved. It's a little bit more methodical in that application process. So again, you might lean this way a little bit, but what happens if you do wipe it off too soon? Either one of them.
If you wipe it off too soon, well, I mean, with this product, what you're gonna find is it's almost gonna force you to wipe it the right amount of time. It's not about leaving it on a certain amount of time, because this one's not gonna cure based on time, like a traditional ceramic coating. It's about the wiping on process. That's the more important part. So it's kind of gonna coach you almost, hey, it still looks like I'm seeing product smearing around, it's not done yet. So that's kind of your indicator to keep wiping. So you're gonna wipe that a little bit longer. With this one, you're gonna have about that recommended wait 5 minutes. If you wipe it off too soon, your worst case scenario, you maybe sacrifice a little bit of durability. So when in doubt, wait 5 minutes.
And because it's so forgiving, it's really easy to wait 5 minutes without that stress factor that so often happens when you're applying a coating. All right, Marcus, so once you've got either one of these two products applied, let's talk about results and what's similar or different between the two of them. And let's start off with durability.
Okay.
Which one's more durable?
888, as you would expect, is a more durable product. You know, we've officially rated that as a multi-year coating. And what we mean by that is we understand in the real world, you're gonna have vehicles that are starting in very different conditions. You might have 20-year-old paint, you might have 2-year-old paint, 2-month-old paint, how much prep you do, if you properly prep it, all these things. But then also, where does that car live? Is it a garage queen? Is it being tracked? You know, is it in acid rain on a regular basis? All those things can play a role. We are confident and, you know, have tested and proven over the course of multiple years that it is a multi-year coating of strong hydrophobic performance.
Maintenance plays a role in this too, though.
As long as you just simply keep it clean. I mean, the main thing here is it doesn't require constant topping and adding and hiding with other products. The main goal here is keep it clean. Wash it or wipe it down once a week or two to keep it at its best.
Okay, because even it doesn't matter how a car was prepped and what coating was put on it. If you then neglect that car for a year, it's going to look bad a year later.
Neglect's the number one way to kill any coating. If you leave stuff sitting in that coating over a long time.
Absolutely. So the 888 will outlast the Ultimate Ceramic. Okay. Gloss levels. Do we actually get a boost in gloss with a ceramic coating here?
Yeah, so one of the unique things also about 888 is we wanted to also try and think of the future, and we've been seeing more and more cars that have really soft paint and surfaces.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
And there's nothing worse than spending hours compounding and polishing a car to total perfection, and then you get towel marks or some, you know, light haze or swirl right at the end when you go to put the coating on.
Those frustrations that you see on those Facebook posts.
Yeah, that is
going nuts.
That's a long day and nobody wants to be a part of that, right? So one of the unique things about 888 is that it actually has the ability to fill minor imperfections, like a towel mark, maybe a little bit of haze.
It won't amplify them like so many other coatings do.
That's right. Instead of amplifying, it's actually going to help fill that in. And what that also is doing, to answer that question directly, is you're adding darkness and gloss through that process.
With 888, how about with the Ultimate?
So you're still going to get that with Ultimate Ceramic Coating, but because you're not going to have quite as durable and not as much material left behind as a pro grade coating,
makes sense.
It's just not going to be quite as strong.
Okay, all right. Slickness, I know, and you know, because we are a global company, and in some parts of the world, slickness is like the number one thing they're looking at. In other places, maybe not so much, but a lot of coatings really aren't that slick. How about these?
These are very slick.
I asked him like I didn't know.
Yeah.
This is crazy slick. This is like amazingly slick.
It is very slick, especially because normally with a lot of ceramic coating formulas, kind of the approach that you go about building those, there's kind of a lever that you pull and you say, do I want really good hydrophobics, that beading, or do I want slickness? And a lot of times you have to trade off and kind of pick one or the other a little bit. We went at it a different way. Actually, those guys did. And they came up with something that allowed us to really have a very strong hydrophobic surface and be very ridiculously slick at the same time.
This is kind of a have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
And this is going to be close, just a notch down.
Yeah, so it's not going to have quite that extreme level of slickness, but most definitely that is a slick ceramic coating.
Water beading, which is huge with ceramic coating. And for a lot of people, that's really kind of the number one thing they're looking at. And that kind of goes into play with what you just talked about, slickness or water beading. Which one do you want? What's water beading like with the two of these? Which one wins that competition?
They're both very strong. I think you're going to be very impressed with the hydrophobics with either of those products. But obviously, with multi-year durability, you're just going to enjoy that a little bit longer with 888.
That virtually self-cleaning. If you've never had a ceramic product on your paint, the first time you drive your car in the rain when you have something like this on there, it's shocking how dirty the car isn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you probably clean up the back bumper a little bit and you're done. It's amazing how self-cleaning a car can be with a proper product like that on it. You might be seeing a trend here where this just kind of keeps notching up every category over this one.
Other than that, a little bit easier to initially put on this guy, yeah.
A little bit easier to initially put on. All right. Chemical resistance, acid rain, stuff like that?
Yeah, so both of these have very high chemical resistance. Again, I would notch it, the lead to the 888.
Okay.
Part of that beyond ceramic is that chemistry was built, from the ground up differently than a traditional ceramic coating. And actually, ceramic coatings at an extreme level, the extreme end of the spectrum, can sometimes actually have some weakness towards really strong acids or really strong alkaline chemicals. And that beyond ceramic, part of that beyond, is that it's moved beyond some of those weaknesses, and it does very well holding up against maybe like a tunnel car wash, a touchless car wash.
Touchless car wash.
Uses a really strong chemical instead of a brush to clean it. It's going to do really well against that.
Those washes tend to be almost like an acid wash and an alkaline rinse. In fact, a lot of times you'll see the lights come on as it's going through the different phases. The one's washing your car, and it will say neutralizing rinse.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, what do you have to neutralize that you just put on my car? They literally wash the car with an acid-based, acids come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes and flavors and whatnot. But different types of dirt and grime require different chemistry to get off the vehicle. So yeah, it's a pretty harsh chemical bath that they're giving your car because nothing is physically touching it.
Yep.
And resistance here is fantastic with both, again, with this one edging out. But something else that comes into play when you're trying to figure out which product to select, especially when they seem like they're fairly similar, a lot of times it goes into what's it going to cost you? What's the price of entry? And we're looking at fairly noticeable differences in price between the pro and the consumer. And obviously the pro is going to cost more because it's outperforming all around. But if you are just looking to kind of dip your toe in the ceramic coating waters, that's kind of hard to beat.
I can't think of a better bang for the buck in terms of being able to get a proper ceramic coating, for that price point, and the fact this bottle is going to do 3 or 4 cars. So the amount of value is really incredible. Especially, I know it's maybe not as big as the the spray wax or spray detailer you're used to seeing on the shelf, but again, this is an actual coating, and it doesn't take very much product to cover a whole car. Whereas this guy here, it's still a value when you look at some of the more expensive professional grade coatings out there.
Sure.
But that kit right there will allow you to do 2 full cars
so
as well.
For a professional detailer who's making a living doing this one is probably going to be his go-to because cost-wise it's going to fit in right with what he's probably been paying, if not a little bit less in a lot of cases.
There's an extra hidden value in there, and that is a 1-layer coating. And there's a lot of professional coatings that you're doing 2, 3, 4, 5. The amount of time you spend, there's time is money, right? So the fact that you can apply 1 coat on that car, that is the recommended application.
And virtually stress-free.
And stress-free, and take a lunch break in the middle of it and not have to worry about it. Take a phone call because you have more clients calling asking for 888 on their car.
There you go.
You don't have to worry about that, and you're going to be able to level that out and have that great experience. But 1 layer, that's time. Time is money, so that's big too.
So a lot of similarities in performance. Obviously, there's a clear winner, if you want to say it that way, overall performance-wise. But does it fit into your budget? Does it fit into what you're really looking for? For more information, again, we've got separate videos deep diving into 888 and talking about tips and tricks for application of the Ultimate Ceramic. And you know what? Both of them work on multiple surfaces too, don't they?
Oh yes, there's also that too. I mean, we can keep going, but yeah, one of the nice things with both of these products is that you can put it on your paint, you can put it on your wheels, You can put it on paint protection film or PPF.
This is so easy to apply to your wheels with the spoke patterns and everything. You literally spray it on and wipe it down with a towel. I did it with a brand new set of wheels it's so easy to do.
And that chemical resistance is really nice on those wheels. You can get multiple years out of 888 on wheels while using wheel cleaners.
And you can use them both on your exterior plastic trim?
Yeah, so you can go over your trim with that. The only thing that either one of these doesn't really bond well to would be glass. Safe on glass. You can put it on your glass. It'll perform for a period of time on the glass.
Bonding to glass is very different.
It's just not going to last as long on those other recommended surfaces.
So they're both terrific all-arounders. Your mileage may vary with application to number of vehicles depending on how heavy-handed you might be using it. But watch those other couple of videos. You'll get a lot of great information on both products. And if you have more questions on any of these, you certainly ask down below, or you can reach out. We've got our phone numbers on the back of every bottle of product that we make. You can call those fine folks and they'll happy to talk you through these products or any other products or processes. Certainly you can reach out to us on all of our social platforms. Our forum at meguiarsonline.com. We are out here and willing and ready to help out in any way, shape, or form that we can. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for hanging out with us and doing this. And hopefully you can make a little bit more of an informed decision on which of these two products is right for you. If you're still not sure, that's a great one to start with, and you can graduate to that one a little bit later on. Otherwise, thanks for joining. We'll see you next time, and stay shiny, everybody.